Hi, my name is Noella Vijant. I am here in Adobe Photoshop 2020 to demonstrate how to make a logo for your photography and also how to automate this process of putting a logo on a picture vis-a-vis using an action in Photoshop. So I have opened here a file that is 3.25 inches wide by 1 inch tall at 300 dpi. And I do that because I want a fairly decent amount of resolution when I do this. I will be using type layers, which will remain in the file, allowing the logo to stretch and shrink as needed onto an image. So the way to create a file is by clicking File and then New, and then navigate through that dialog box to the size of the file that you wish. As you can see, I have two text layers. I came up with this logo by researching and trying to find a font that I really appreciated or that looked similar to my own handwriting. And I'm using just a basic font to emphasize the photography base of my logo. So you'll need a blank background and at least one layer of text to do this. Once you've accomplished that, what you need to do is remove this background layer. Now you can delete it if you want, or you can just turn it off because it won't affect what you're doing to have the layer as part of the file. From here, I'll click File, Save, and I want to name this file so that I can find it later. And I'm going to give it a special place on my computer so that I can find it later on. So I suggest that on your computer, inside your picture folder, that you create a folder specifically for logos. Now I already have one, so I'm showing you an empty folder for the purposes of this exercise. And then when we save a file that has layers in it, Photoshop's going to want to make it a PSD file. We're going to change that file format to a PDF file. And that's here on the list, Photoshop PDF. Click that file type to select it, and then click Save. And you'll just go ahead and click OK through the default dialog boxes here. You don't need to worry about these settings. Just click OK, click Save the PDF, and click Yes here. So again, I'm just clicking through the defaults on the dialog box for setting up the PDF. Okay, now I have a PDF with a transparent background, which I can re-edit whenever I want. So the next thing to do is to test out this logo on a photograph. So I happen to have another photograph already, or a photograph opened. And how I want to bring that logo on here is through a menu that we use to bring in smart objects or things such as that will become smart objects. And this is done through the File menu and then Place Embedded. If you're using an older version of Photoshop, it's just called File Place. The newer versions, it's called Place Embedded. You click there, and then you need to navigate back through on your folders to where you created that logo. So mine is under the logo NV Photography in my Pictures menu. Click to choose the file and then choose Place down here at the bottom. What happens now is Photoshop drops in a smart object, and I know that because it's got the X through it and it has transform handlebars. If I want to stretch or shrink this, I can do this at that point. Be sure you have the aspect ratios locked up here so that you don't warp your logo. Okay, so you can see I can stretch it however way I want. And then check the check when you're done. So on the tool option bar, you want to check this box here to complete that transform. Okay, so what a smart object lets me do is that's a black logo, and I'll use my move tool to bring it down to another part of the image. And you see that's normally where I would place it, but it blends too much into the background for it to really show up. To edit this, you just need to double click down here. You see this little icon at the bottom of my logo layer. This is what indicates that it's a smart object. If I double click, the program will pop me back to that logo. Now all I need to do is to change the font colors on both of these layers. I'll do that by clicking the T in the tool option bar for text, and then changing the color up here. So both of these need to be white in order to work for this particular photo. I could also just invert the smart object, but you might want to choose a different color. So that's why I'm showing you how to edit it. And you'll need to click File, Save one more time. This will then populate over to the photo that I just dropped it on. So you see, now I have a white logo here. Okay, so that's pretty easy, except you have to do a lot of clicking to click File, Place, and to get it onto your photos. I'm now going to show you how to write an action, so that all you have to do is run the action to get the logos to place. If your photography is generally the same size, your logo is probably going to fit perfectly on the photo, and it will do it the same each time you place the logo. You can at any time transform by clicking Edit, Transform, and then Scale, or just use the shortcut Command on a PC or Control on a Mac. Oops, the other way around. Control on a PC, Command on a Mac. The letter T as in Thomas, and that brings up your transform handle so that you can alter the logo as you wish. I'll hit escape to that because it stretched it weird. Okay, writing an action. If you don't have the action panel open, you're going to click Window from the Window menu, and alphabetically, the panels are listed here. Just check next to Action so the Action panel opens up. And in order to make this an action that you can take forward with you in other versions of Photoshop, you first need to create an action set. That way it can be saved outside of the program. Kind of like your logos, if you customize things in Photoshop, you do want to keep a copy someplace so that if your program crashes or your computer crashes, you can reload these things you spend time making. So down at the bottom of the action panel, I have a trash can, I have new action, and then I have action set. So that's going from right to left, the icons at the bottom of the panel. My first thing is to create the set. So I'll click this little icon, and that brings me up to a dialog box that I am prompted to add a name. I already have an action called logos. You could call yours logo, but I'm going to give this a new name just so it'll populate in my action panel. So I'll say logo NV photo. How's that? And then click OK to that new set. Now you see I've got a folder and the name populated here on my action panel. And now to write the action. So before I write the action, what I need to do is to go back in history to when I opened the file. That way my action will work. Here's my set, my logo photo set, and I'm going to check the create new action button here at the bottom of the panel. And this gives me a way to write a new action, and you can see that it will land into that set that I just created. So I will call it place logo, and you could be specific if you wanted to. You could have a white logo and a black logo. And then you'll know the difference between them, because that file that I just created, I could save as again and make it a new PDF with a different titling, so I would know which was my black logo, which was my white logo. So make sure you put in a name that you understand or that makes sense to the action you're going to write. And then you'll click the record button. So now Photoshop is going to record every single step I make and allow me to just hit a play button on another image for umpteen amount of years or times that I want to do this. You can also batch, so you can drop your logo on a whole group of photos all at once. Again, I'll use the File menu and go down to Place Embedded. Navigate, you'll need to do this piece manually because although I am in the correct directory here, I may not be when I'm running this action later. So you want to go back to this PC and Pictures, find your logo folder, click on the file, and then click the word Place. And once the action is done, now in Photoshop, whenever you have these square boxes around an object, you're in what I call Adobe Prison, which means you can't do anything until you finish this. I cannot stop the action until I check the check on this logo that just dropped in. So I'll click the check mark up here, and then I can stop my action. So I'll come over to the action panel and click stop recording. All right, so let me go back in history here to when I opened the file, go back to my actions, and now I want to test my action. So I know that you just noticed it placed it black. That's because I accessed logo file, not logo file 1. So let's go ahead and run this action, and I'll make the fixes afterwards. So here we go, place, and boom, there's my action. Now, just like when I did file place embedded from without using an action, I can still go in, double click on this icon, and go back and change my colors. The other thing I can do is, let me go back to that picture, is because I know I'm dealing with black and white, I can just invert what is on this layer. So I can click image, adjust, and then invert, and it'll convert from black to white. Now, because it's a smart object, it created a smart filter. That's not a problem. When I'm all finished, wherever I want this, and again, I can transform, oops, I can transform. Hang on, I lost my filter. And then in the end, what you would be doing is collapsing these layers. You may not want your logo to be at maximum opacity, so you can change the opacity of the layer just by dragging back from the left to right, or sorry, from right to left on the opacity slider, or you can drop this down and try to find this little knob here and pull that as well. And you could also just type a number in here if you happen to know what number you want to use. Okay, well, I know I rushed through this video. Hopefully this helps. This is only my second YouTube video, so let's see what happens next. Be well.